Hello and welcome to another episode of the 3 on 3 Oops Pod, the voice of 3 on 3 basketball, and where we break down why 3 on 3 basketball is the secret sauce to player development. My name is Kevin Roberts, and today I am not joined by the one and only Coach Jay. It's just moi. And for today's episode, it's going to be a little bit different since it's just me and no Coach Jay this week. I get to talk about whatever I want, and I decided that instead of diving into drills and coaching strategies, I want to share a story, my story. And I want to tell you how coaching led me to 3 on 3 basketball and why it's completely changed how I see the game. Now, I'm not saying this or I'm not telling all this because anyone listening is sitting around wondering who's this Kevin guy. I get that you probably clicked on the episode because you wanted to learn something that will help you as a coach or a parent or maybe even as a player, as we always talk about, or that's our target audience for the most part. But I think by the end of this episode you'll understand why I believe in 3 on 3 so much and why it might be the best tool, why I believe that it's the best tool we have for developing players and keeping them in love with the game. For me, uh, basketball grabbed me early. Uh, as the furthest back I can remember is elementary school. I went to a predominantly white Catholic school back in 1988, is as far as I can remember. I believe I was in fourth grade, and I'll never forget like the first time I touched the basketball, or at least around people, and we're all outside after school. I think my friends were all playing, and one of them yelled out, "Hey, pick Kevin. He's good." And now the only reason they said that because again, I've never touched a basketball in front of somebody. I may have dribbled, a few times at my house or whatever, but the only reason they said that was because I was black, and so I hadn't even played before that moment. But you know what? I was fast and I was athletic, so maybe they were right, I guess. But or at least better than they were. But I was athletic for my age, and I didn't look half bad. But more importantly, I had fun, and so I started paying attention. After that day, I started paying attention to basketball on TV. Michael Jordan, back in 88, 89, he was one of the first players that I really watched. And once that happened, I never looked back. So I think the first full game I watched was when Jordan hit that shot against over Elo in the 1989 first round against Cleveland. So the shot on Elo is good.
The inbounds pass comes into Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win! They win! Set the Cleveland Cavaliers.
That shot. So I think that was the first full game I watched, and I just fell in love after that. And also it turned out that my dad was a pretty good player himself, and he got me into the history of the NCAA and NBA. Talking about all the old players back then, and Magic Johnson, and his favorite player was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I started watching more and more basketball, with him and because of him. So from there, basketball just consumed me. So it was the first thing that I remember truly loving, and honestly, it's the first thing that I remember being praised for. And that matters when you're a kid. So I played all through my middle school years on the basketball team, and played all through high school right up until I hurt my knee at the start of my senior year, and later on in college I hurt my other knee, and eventually I just gave up playing for a while, and life moved on after that, and I got married, had a kid, worked at a cubicle job, played in a couple of men's leagues here and there, but it wasn't the same. My life felt routine, I guess is the word for it. Work, dinner, family stuff, and then one or two video games at night when everybody was asleep. That was pretty much my routine every single day. But I found myself daydreaming about coaching, but honestly, I didn't think that I had the right personality for it. I wasn't fiery like all my other coaches were at the time. Up to that point, I wasn't like Bob Knight. That's the coach that I had in my head because that's how I'm almost, well, not that bad, but my coaches were all pretty fiery. And I'm more of a laid back person. So I didn't think I had the personality to be a coach. That's the kind of label I put on it. But one day I just decided I'd stop thinking about it and just go after it. And I remember being at a red light, and it was literally, it wasn't planned. I was on my way home from work, and I was still passing by my old middle school, and I decided just to turn because the light was red. I just decided to turn right into the parking lot because I was right across from the school. So I went into that old grade school, and that same court, same place where they picked me because I was black to play basketball. But I walked into the office and asked if they needed a basketball coach or an assistant, and I made sure to tell them, I'll volunteer. I wasn't really looking to get paid. I just wanted to help. Turns out one of my middle school teammates was the head coach, and they called back and told me that, they told him that I was there, and he said that he'd love to have me help him out. So I remember the first practice I went to. The moment I started, I felt alive again. And I broke out of my routine, and but at first it was more about me, honestly, because I felt like it gave me purpose. It got me back into the game. It made me feel good that I was out here doing it. And so, but over time that shifted, and I started to realize it wasn't about me at all. And as I coached more, I saw some things that I really didn't like about how the game was being experienced by these kids, and I hated seeing kids ride the bench. They really wanted to play, and obviously we want to win, and we can't play everybody. So it was a competitive league, but I hate seeing them lose confidence because they weren't one of the top players, and especially during at least back then during in that middle school league, there's three, maybe four guys that you just play a lot, and then the other guys you try to sprinkle in there when you can. But it's a very competitive league. So, but I hated seeing that. So, and I did see some politics creep in. I was a part of that myself as a player, so I know how frustrating that can be. I saw kids hiding on the court when they did get a chance. In the 5-on-5 games, barely touching a ball, not really getting involved. And, these kids will purposely hide because they didn't want to mess up. They didn't want to get the ball and mess up. That happens too. So, and I kept thinking, this isn't how basketball should feel for kids. Basketball gave me so much joy growing up. But for some of these kids, it was doing the exact opposite. And so that's what sometimes that would drive kids away from basketball. And, they'd lose their confidence. And I just hated seeing that because, basketball is a sport that I love. And that's when I started that's what really started me thinking there's got to be a better way to teach the game that'll still keep it fun for the kids and invite kids, and have them not run away from the ball. I hate seeing that. Um yeah, and I call this part right here, I call it the accidental discovery of 3-on-3, because my introduction to 3-on-3 wasn't a master plan. It wasn't really planned at all. Actually, it happened because I was forced into it. And my first year, and it happened during my first year coaching high school, a JV team. And I remember, I had the tryouts and everything. I had all my stuff planned for tryouts, thinking I had, the gym at this certain time. But, when you're a JV coach, you literally have the last priority of the gym. So I remember, the day of my tryouts, they told me that, oh, volleyball is going to be in there after varsity. So that kind of, so they didn't really care. I told them I need to have tryouts for my team, but they didn't care. I ended up using the basketball court that was outside for my first tryout, which was unplanned. And I needed, and we had a big turnout for those tryouts. I had too many kids to evaluate and not enough or no gym time. I had to go outside. So I needed to find a way to see more players faster. So instead of what I had originally planned, which was, play sets of 5-on-5 games, I decided to just do 3-on-3, because we didn't have a good full court outside. It was like three good baskets, and then one basket that wasn't a good basket to play at. So um I don't know if the rim was bent or something like that. Something was wrong with that basket. But we had three good baskets. And so what I did was I just used those three baskets. And again, we had a lot of kids. And and it kind of blew me away, really, when we set up these 3-on-3 games at these three baskets. And I walked around and looked I looked at different groups, and my assistant coach would help and look at the other groups or whatever. And we just kept on playing, and I could get a better read on players in a shorter amount of time because in 3-on-3 you see everything. You see who can pass, who can communicate, who hides. And during the season, I still had the same problem with the gym time. Again, JV has JV boys had the last priority of the gym. You had varsity boys and varsity girls, and then volleyball for some reason. Then cheerleading team. I guess we had a really good cheerleading squad. They came in before us, so I don't know why they couldn't practice somewhere else. But anyway, not to go on a tangent, but yeah, I had limited gym time during my first year. So we did have to have our practice pretty late, but I did start using 3-on-3 in practice. And I remember, if anything, just to kind of break things up from doing drills and regular, routine or whatever, I would just run 3-on-3 because the kids liked it. Um, and we would when we taught something, that's just how the coach and I would just split up the teams. I did keep a oddly large number of kids on a I think I had like 15 players, 16 players, something like that on my very first JV team because I really didn't want to cut anybody. It was really hard for me to cut kids back then, especially for JV basketball. But yeah, so we were using 3-on-3 to like enforce what we taught and then evaluate the kids and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, but I remember I went to a coaching clinic, and a college coach demonstrated how he used 3-on-3 as a development tool. And I was proud because I had already started doing this. And so when I saw him talk about it, kind of validated what I was already doing. But he was more intentional about it, obviously. And I saw a version called defensive cutthroat, and where you could only score by getting stops. And I thought this was brilliant. You can score by getting a steal, a defensive rebound, or deflections and stuff like that. So yeah, so that was brilliant, and I started using that immediately. Um, and I saw another one where he taught how to use constraints, with the two dribble limit and every player touching the ball before a shot goes up or some kind of restraint like that. So I started doing that in my own practices. And I just I remember the players just loving it. They loved whenever I split them up into in the teams of three. So I knew exactly why they loved it, because everybody knew they were going to touch the ball. They were involved. And so that was that, I guess you call it a light bulb moment, I guess, where 3-on-3 wasn't just a drill that we did. It wasn't just pickup. It turned into the best teaching tool I had. I could be efficient with the time. The kids enjoyed it, and it brought out some competitiveness. We actually split up. We actually had 3-on-3 teams. That would be the team, and we would do all our drills in threes. So I don't know. I like the competitiveness that it brought out in that team. And as I kept using 3-on-3, I started watching videos online with 3-on-3 drills and stuff like that. And I started watching FIBA 3x3 online. And when you watch those games and see them play overseas, I mean the energy is electric. You got, I think this past weekend they played in Edmonton in a mall, and to see 3x3 basketball inside a mall was pretty awesome. And some of these crowds, man, they're like they get packed, and like I said, they got the music playing in the background, and it just looks like a party atmosphere. And sometimes the crowds are just huge, and I really wish that we can bring that excitement here in the US because it is really really exciting to see overseas how popular 3x3 is. And so I thought more and more, I was like, why don't we have more of this here? And I looked around Tampa, and there were no 3x3 or 3-on-3 leagues at all. So that's when I decided to create one, and that's when I created 3-on-3 Live. And I did end up tying it to FIBA 3x3. I used the FIBA 3x3 rules for the most part, and I ran a few leagues, and the kids loved it, the parents loved it. And then one day I get a message from Coach Jay, who was stalking me on my Instagram page, I guess. And he was running a similar league out in Arizona, to score hoops 3-on-3. And he sent me a message on LinkedIn, I believe, and he pitched the idea of doing a podcast together to promote our leagues. And at first, the podcast was just that. It was just a supplement to our league and our league, both of our leagues. So we were just going to use it to kind of validate what we're both trying to build in our separate locations. But as we kept recording episodes, interviewing coaches, and hey, we've had some great coaches on too, and got an opportunity to speak with Don Showalter, who's a 10-time USA basketball gold medalist head coach. Nick Lagalbo, who is the head coach of the Team USA 3x3 women's national team. So like just to have the opportunity to speak with these guys and the many great high school coaches we've had on, and even league directors who run similar leagues to ours, we've had an opportunity to speak with. It's just been great, man. And we realized that this is bigger than just our leagues, right? That's when we came up with the idea for the 3 on 3 Hoops Nation, to bring together coaches, parents, players who believe in the power of this format. Now, 3 on 3 Hoops Nation is the main brand. The podcast, the 3 on 3 Hoops Pod, is the way we share that message. It's the main way we share that message. In our leagues, the 3 on 3 Live, Score Hoops, 3 on 3. We've had the founders of Northwest 3 on 3 basketball come on and talk about their league, Mountain West 3 on 3 basketball, and Mid Michigan 3 on 3 basketball. We've had all those founders come in and for an interview and talk about their league, and all of our leagues are the proof of what we're talking about in our episodes. So they're the proof of the message. Um, so this is why I believe in 3 on 3. And if someone asked me, Kevin, why do you talk about 3 on 3 so much? My answer would be um, because to me, it's the purest form of basketball. It's the best way to include everyone. It's the best way to give every player a touch, to give every kid a shot, every kid a chance to feel the game, and to make it fun. You know what I'm saying? That you just have more fun when you're involved. And I'm talking mostly about youth basketball here, middle school to high school for the most part. Those years, I believe those years really shape who you are, especially on the court. That's where you learn all your bad habits or good habits. So I still carry things that were said to me in those years, both good and bad. And I just think about the kids who get cut from their school team, who are involved in, who unfortunately get involved in politics, kids that don't play that much, um, kids that make the team but barely play. Most of them quit. I, it really hurts me when I see kids out there avoid the basketball because they don't want to mess up. They're happy to be out on the court, but they're so scared to mess up in front of their coach, that they avoid it. Um, so most of them quit or they move on to another sport. Those kids who don't play that much, or the kids that get cut, they still want to play. They want a place to play. They want just a place to they still want to be on the team, or else they wouldn't have tried out. So that's why I always hate cut day. Um, but 3 on 3 gives all of them a chance. I do remember one of my leagues focusing on the kids that got cut from their teams. So I gave them another, I guess, option. During the signups for one of my leagues, I did go to a few tryouts, talk to a couple of coaches. They had me come in and talk to the kids on cut day. That was the last day of tryouts, and I told them, I said, "Hey, if you get cut, if you don't make the team, you still have an option or another opportunity to play in a league like mine." So I was happy to present that to the kids, and we did have a few kids come in, who did get cut from their team, and they joined our fall league. So that's something that I'm really proud of. 3 on 3 just gives not only gives them a chance, but it gives them a chance to thrive because they get the ball so much. But and no format really provides more touches, more involvement, and more joy than 3-on-3. And in the same time, you're actually developing as a basketball player. And so that's why I can't really shut up about it, because this isn't just basketball. It's just a way to keep kids in the game. Is to help them fall in love with the game and to give them confidence that maybe carries off the court also. So that's my story. So that I didn't share it because I think anyone who clicked this episode or is wondering who I am, I shared it because I think that if you're a coach, uh, a parent, or a player, you'll see why I believe so strongly in 3-on-3 basketball and why I think it can make the game better for everyone, right? And we're building something I really believe in with 3-on-3 Hoops Nation. And it's a place where ideas and drills are shared, and or leagues can connect, like the leagues that I mentioned earlier. Um, and because it's such a great thing when coach contacted me and we realized that we kind of run the same type of league on different sides of the country, and we both wish that we were closer so we can run one together. But I think that's awesome. Like we both have the similar mindset, so we just wanted to provide a platform where other leagues can kind of feel what Coach Jay and I had when we connected. So yeah, so it's just a place for leagues to connect. And if you want to be part of it, grab the free 3-page guide that we have up there now. It's 7 proven 3-on-3 drills that Coach Jay made up. And it's good for, if even if you're a coach or a player, it's good to have. And you can grab that at 3on3hoopsnation.com. And so yeah, so thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me share. And if any of this resonates well with any of you guys, I'd love to hear your story too. Because really, this isn't just my story. It's about, we try to make this about every kid who still wants to play, or who every parent who's just looking for another option and looking for more options for their kids. Sometimes a parent might want their kid to play more, but they can't afford AAU or something like that. Or then we're trying to just get kids to play organized basketball. So every parent looking for another option, or even every coach who wants to see their players grow. Coaches are always looking for new ideas and efficient ways to run practices, and so that's who we are speaking to also. And also, you may be a coach who fell out of love with coaching for whatever reason, and if this is a way to get you to think differently or have some more ideas to get you back into coaching, we're speaking to you also. So anyway, um, that's what 3-on-3 Hoops Nation is about. And I really can't wait to see where it goes from here. So that's it. All right. Yeah. So that's it. Be sure to head over to 3on3hoopsnation.com, like and subscribe, and comment on our show. Comment on our show. We invite the conversation. um, we'd love to hear from you guys. We're always willing to talk basketball and share ideas and all that stuff. So that's it. Thanks again, and I'll see you when I see you. Peace.